Hey there, true believers. You're tuned into Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed, and welcome to episode 39 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I'm your host, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host. His name is Shane Murray. How you doing tonight, Shane?
I'm doing. How about yourself?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate to where I am as well. Have you been keeping busy this past week?
Uh, Daytona happened over the weekend, so I watched that. And
That's
I,
racing, right?
yep, Saturday, I don't know what, nothing happened on Saturday. I feel like we did nothing. And then I went to a friend of ours on Tuesday and we painted some minis for a little while Tuesday night.
Oh, for what game?
He was actually not doing a mini. I was painting War of Rohirrim stuff just because I got some. And that would be the Rohan Nation. And he was painting a dinosaur egg because he does that 3D printing stuff.
All right.
So somebody ordered the Jurassic Park raptor from the first movie when it hatches and you see the little claw. So he was painting that egg, the little
Nice.
baby velociraptor inside.
Oh, sounds like
And
fun.
dude, that's it. Like between last Friday or last Thursday and today, I don't know. The world's been weird. But what about yourself, bud?
Still working on the con for the spring. I spent a couple days last week plastering flyers to get the word out about that. And I know you and I play Dungeons and Dragons in our own group, but I have decided that I'm going to run a game for certain coworkers of mine who are interested in starting. So, and I've never actually dungeon mastered, weirdly enough. So yeah, working on putting that together and having them all come up with their characters and figuring out how that works into the world building that I've been doing. So should be starting up that game sometime soon. And otherwise, still just dealing with the trouble that has been this chronic knee pain situation that I've had. Physical therapy has not been really helping it so far. So now I'm going to go see an orthopedic specialist and see what they have to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah. On a more positive note, though, I did start watching the latest season of Fallout, and a couple episodes in so far, really enjoying it. Interested to see where it goes, so don't spoil it for me.
I won't. I just finished it yesterday, so
And that's making me, have a hankering to play New Vegas and get back into Fallout 4 and build settlements and, things that I don't necessarily have time for right now.
things that you don't have time for right this second.
Yeah.
I guess not. Have you really never DM'd a
So I've run tabletop role-playing games before, but never Dungeons and Dragons.
Hmm,
I've done that well, it was Mutants and Masterminds, but they had that whole DC series of books that they did, so I've done that. And then the latest Marvel multiverse role-playing game, I've done some stuff with that, but that's really the only stuff I've run.
hmm.
I've always wanted to run Dungeons and Dragons, and then there's some other games like Monster of the Week I've been sitting on a campaign for. I would love to get my hands on the books for All Flesh Must Be Eaten, the zombie apocalypse role-playing game. I've had an idea for that for quite some time, but we'll see how Dungeons and Dragons, the original and arguably the best, works out.
You're playing fifth edition?
We're gonna do the 2014 rules.
Not 2024. Not with all the fun stuff.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, not sarcastic. The 2024 rules are wild, dude. Because some weapons have auto cleave built into them. You have to look into like all this stuff, but the stats are crazy. You get auto abilities by weapon.
That does sound fun. The only reason I decided against going with fifth edition, stuck with the 2014 rules, is the fact that I'm used to the 2014 rules as a player and therefore wanted to give that a shot as a dungeon master without having to necessarily learn a whole new system. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to be paying attention. The 2024 rules requires the DM to pay a little bit more of attention. I ran a small little session for actually the same dude I painted with him, another friend of ours who can't leave his house really anymore, and Aaron. We were trying something to see if we could get him because he's been missing playing D&D, but he can't get around a table anymore for health reasons. So we were trying to figure out if we could do it over the computer, but I have a heck of a time trying to get Roll20 to work. But I was able to use the D&D one that D&D put out, the virtual tabletop, and that worked pretty smoothly.
We are actually going to be playing in person, and the big hurdle with that is now I need to get my hands on a laptop. So I don't really feel like buying a bunch of physical stuff and having like a DM screen. If I just had a laptop, it would work perfectly.
Hmm.
It's either that or I finally get the nerd cave back into organized order and have space to do things back here, but
Mm,
don't necessarily see that happening as quickly as I want it to.
fair enough.
Speaking of role playing, you know who else took on a bit of role playing?
Ooh,
Well, he's not named in this issue that we're covering today, but later on, he is dubbed Ricardo Jones, and he's the antagonist of Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 51, which is the book that we'll be taking a deep dive into tonight.
I did not know that he had a name. I was wondering if he did. I was going to wait to ask you at the end.
So, in all honesty, for the longest time, this character was simply referred to as the Changeling. He wasn't named until his brother showed up in an issue of Web of Spider-Man in 1990. That would be issue 69 of Volume 1. His brother's name was Armin Jones, and he name dropped this character as Ricardo Jones. That has become what the character is known as.
Fair enough.
So this is a little bit different from what we've been doing with the Stan and Jack run. Way back in episode 2, we began with volume 1, issue 1, and since then we've just been going in chronological order. The last one that we touched on was volume 1, issue 10. Now we've jumped all the way to issue 51. You might be asking why we did this. So this episode is going to drop on March 4th. And this issue, though it was initially cover dated for June of 1966, was released on March 10th of 1966. So within a week of this episode dropping will be the 60th anniversary of when this issue was released. Now, why is that special? This is arguably the high point of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's run on Fantastic Four. We're literally one issue after the coming of Galactus. We are one issue before the debut appearance of Black Panther. So this is often considered to be arguably the best single issue of Fantastic Four, having been released in its first 100 or so issues that Stan and Jack did together. So back in 1966, 12 cents is what got you this issue. Shane, I went on to pricecharting.com as I always do prior to our recordings, and I got us the values for a graded 9.8 copy and what that has sold for, as well as what an ungraded copy of this book has sold for. Would you like to take a guess at what the graded 9.8 copy has sold for at maximum?
9.8. Uh, 18,000.
No, you're over. You lost the
Yes!
prices right. The maximum recorded value that I have for issue 51 of volume 1 is $4,202.99.
It's actually for the Jack and Stan book seems very cheap.
How about an ungraded copy? What do you think that is sold for at maximum?
Um, 175.
$42.
Again, I am shocked.
Yeah. So that win you've been looking for, you didn't find it here.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
I guess
did.
I guess you did in a way, but not by the rules that we play the game by.
Mm, that's wild.
So, would you like a synopsis of today's issue, Shane?
Sure.
All right. We do have one via Marvel Unlimited, which reads, "This man, this monster. You can't call yourself a fan of Ben Grimm, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing, if you haven't read this issue. 40 years later, and it's still one of the greatest thing stories ever told." So I'm curious as to where they pulled this from for Marvel Unlimited, because obviously the synopsis is 20 years old at this point. And I
Well,
don't think Marvel Unlimited was around 20 years ago, if I remember
no,
correctly.
but they have a print date usually inside here in the book. So, yeah, so it's 2018 is when they did the upload.
Which is also not correct.
Well, I'm assuming that whenever they did the original, that word eludes me, the F word. When they did a facsimile,
Yeah, the facsimile edition.
yeah, see, I'm getting there. When they did the original one, it was probably 40 years ago, and then this was a reprint, a second facsimile, or this was maybe done as a one of the dollar books.
So I'm assuming the 2018 date is one of the dollar books.
Yeah.
The what are they called? Oh yeah, the True Believers.
I was gonna say the True Believers.
Crazy, right? Um, however, so 40 years would have put this at 2006.
Yeah. So that's probably when they did the original facsimile edition, I would
Well,
assume.
I don't think it is though. Maybe it is because I don't have facsimiles or True Believers edition listed in the reprint list that I came across and developed for the show. The nearest thing I can tell is that maybe it's from the Best of Fantastic Four trade paperback in May of 2005. Maybe it was in taken from an introduction or something there within. Cannot verify that. I'll put a pin in that for a later day. So the cover for this issue, and man, is this a classic cover, was by Jack Kirby, inked by Joe Sinnott, colored by Stan Goldberg, and lettered by Artie Simic. Go ahead and take us through it there, my friend.
You have Ben prominently in the front, in the foreground of this cover, just staring down at his hands. You have Sue pleading with Ben, and you have Reed in some Kirby crackle, just looking at like he's about to absolutely just disappear from existence. And then you have beautiful computer, like all the little computer work and all of the detail into that behind Ben.
Yeah, the machine work by Jack Kirby is stellar as always, and this might be the cleanest we've seen it so far.
Yeah, there's a couple times in here I wonder if someone came in cleaned up the lines. There are some lines in here that don't look like Jack lines in this book. This might have been a book that he did and they the bullpen cleaned up some of the Jack lines because there are some lines that are very, very clean in this. Or maybe it was just when it went to inking, they cleaned it up with inking because it's but this anyway, this is very clean. Then you got that beautiful corner box shot of all their faces, and you get your little comic code authority thing stamp there, and number 51 in the little box of June.
Yeah, now you mentioned the line work and the inks. This is one of those things where you look at it and you think just how well the pairing of Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott was. I honestly don't think that there was anybody who really inked Jack's work as well as what Joe Sinnott did.
No, definitely not. But like I said, there's just something. There's a couple frames in this that I was like, that doesn't look like Jack lines. But we'll get into those. Maybe I'll remember which ones they were.
And so we open up to the first page of our story, which is led off with the caption, "The fabulous FF must solve the terrible riddle of."
This man, this monster.
And we also have a caption which has the credits, which reads, Quite possibly, this may be one of the greatest illustrated epics yet produced by Stan Lee, writer, Jack Kirby, penciler, Joe Sinnott, inker, Artie Simic, letterer. And go ahead and describe this full page splash to the true believer, Shane.
Oh, dude, yeah. So you have a great, again, Ben in the foreground with the city behind him and just rain pouring all over the place. Lights in the building, or it looks like it's supposed to be lights in the building anyway. Almost looks like car lights reflecting off the building, just meshed into the rain. And just Ben with the saddest eyes. It's amazing also just seeing the water run off of each finger.
Now, amazingly detailed work here by Jack Kirby. And Ben looks down because coming off the tail end of the Galactus trilogy, he feels like Alicia Masters has lost interest in him and has instead been eyeing up the Silver Surfer. Poor, poor misguided Ben. And we turn the page, and Ben continues to walk dejectedly through the city streets in the pouring rain as a police car comes upon him. Our narration reads, occasionally, a tale needs no introduction. This is such a tale. A rainy night, a strangely forlorn figure, and rare wonderment awaits us. Ben thinks to himself, I'll never be human again. I'll live and die just the way I am. And the approaching police officers in their vehicle say, oh, look, Dave, isn't that the thing? Well, you must be. Today isn't Halloween. And they pull up and roll down the window to their cruiser, and the one in the passenger seat says, want a lift, big fella? A guy can catch a cold that way. A normal guy, you mean? Weather don't bother me. Is anything wrong? You look kind of beat. So would you if you had a face like mine. Ah, don't mind me. I'm okay. Everything's coming up roses. See you around. And as the cruiser pulls away, he says to himself, they tried to be helpful. Yeah, some chance. How do you help an orange-skinned freak whose gal gave him the air? I wonder what made me walk to this neighborhood. Almost like something was pulling. Huh? And a door opens from behind Ben. And go ahead and describe the gentleman who has approached him.
Okay, so it is a bald man who has a facial structure strangely, it's a human facial structure, but it looks strangely like Ben's with the how the eyebrows go across. Like his eyebrow bones are set up and all. Um, Weirdly shaped individual, but he's got a white button up on and some green pants because everyone wore green pants in the 60s in case you didn't know.
Ought to get me a pair of green pants.
It can't be like light green. It has to be green pants too.
You know me, I like green. Green's my favorite color.
So just another maybe adversary.
And yeah, he's wearing a white button down with a black tie, along with those green trousers that you described. And he opens the door behind Ben and says, I saw you out there in the rain. Why not come in where it's warm and dry? What is this? Be nice to Gargoyles Week or something? I can understand your bitterness and sympathize with it. I, too, know how it feels to be lonely and sad of heart. And Ben enters this gentleman's home and sits down at a desk and rests his head in his hands while the gentleman thinks he still suspects nothing. I must be careful, so very careful. I'll just sit here for a minute. I'm tired of walking, tired of thinking. And this man, who, as we mentioned earlier, is named Ricardo Jones, continues to attend to Ben. Perhaps a warm cup of coffee will make you feel better. And he begins to pour Ben a mug. There ain't enough coffee in the world to. Ah, nuts. I'm beginning to sound like a blasted soap opera. That's all right. I don't mind. And Ben takes a sip of the coffee and says, "What's your angle, pal? You a talent scout for a freak show or something?" "No, but I too have been rejected. I'm a scientist, but I'm also a man who knows how it feels to be scorned by others, to be mocked and ridiculed because of my theories." "Knock it off, you're breaking my heart. One Reed Richards is enough." Shane, I'm gonna take an aside here. For someone who was just invited into a person's home, Ben's being kind of rude here.
Ben is being not real typical Ben, just extra rude Ben. This is like early Ben.
I get he's down on his luck, but he was walking through the rainstorm. He's tired, and Ricardo has brought him into his living room, and he more or less just told him to shut up.
He did in the ever most politeful way.
Ricardo does take this in stride, though, as he says, "Ah, I wish I had Richard's money and his equipment. With his reputation, his fame, his assets, he can accomplish seeming miracles." "You sure come on strong, mister. Well, thanks for the Java, chum. I'm gonna grab me some shut-eye." And Ben walks to the door of the unit, and Ricardo thinks, he's tired. The coffee worked well. "Wait! No need to go out in the rain. I have a couch you can use. It isn't much, but if you're sleepy—" "I don't get it. And hardly keep my peepers open. I'm bushed." And Ben lays down on the sofa and is immediately out. And Ricardo thinks, so far, so good. He's sound asleep. Everything worked perfectly. After tonight, they'll laugh at my theories no longer. I'll have proven myself at last. And then I'll score the greatest triumph of all. Single-handed, I'll destroy the entire Fantastic Four. Thus, I'll prove for all time that I'm the mental superior of Reed Richards. And Ricardo walks over to a closet and opens the door and reveals what, Shane?
It is a mechanical suit that he built that makes him replicate what he scans.
I mean, that's as good a description as anything. I would have called it a mechanical what's it. But maybe I've just been reading too much Ben lately.
Maybe.
And looking at this device, Ricardo says, "I've spent a lifetime creating my duplication apparatus, and it's taken long months of patient planning to lure the thing into this room by using my short-range subliminal influencer. But now, all the labor, all the waiting, all the scheming will pay off at last. I'm through being a loser. This time, I've got the winning hand." And Ricardo straps part of this mechanical device around Ben's wrist. "As for the thing, there's no way he can ever stop me." And Ricardo has now removed his shirt and is strapping another part of the device around his chest as he sits in what looks to be a quite comfy yellow chair. He was the perfect choice for my experiment because of our slight skeletal resemblance. That fact will make the duplication process all the more effective. And now, let it begin. Yeah, this panel is actually really interesting to me, Shane, as Ricardo activates his device between the inking and the colors. Very striking.
Yeah, it's striking is probably the best word I could think of also. It tells a lot of story with very little word bubble.
And we see Ricardo begin to change into the thing. It's working, as I knew it would. I can sense it. I can feel it. My apparatus is duplicating the thing, cell for cell, molecule for molecule. It's over. I'm an exact replica of him. Now all his fame, All his power are mine. And when we turn the page, not only do we see that as the thing, Ricardo's clothes are now in tatters, but what else do we see, Shane?
We see that Ben is back to Ben, just normal looking Ben Grimm.
And Ricardo disconnects the device from the human form of Ben Grimm and says, as for the real thing, he's got no cause to complain. He returned to his normal form. Now I am the monster, and not he. But this is only the first phase of my plan. There is still much to be done. I must begin immediately to practice speaking in exactly the same manner as the real orange skin thing. A few days later, in the tower of the world-famous Baxter Building, we find... What, Shane?
We find Reed working on a device with Sue, well, begging him to come eat dinner with her.
Reed says, I'll have to skip dinner tonight, Sue. I can't stop working now. But that's what you said last night, Reed, and the night before. I'm sorry, dear. It won't take too much longer. If this works, it'll give Earth a weapon with which to fight extraterrestrial menaces, such as Galactus. Do you think he'll return? There's always a chance. And in this new space age, we must have adequate defenses against any attack. I I think you know more than you're telling me. You've had work crews all week building new machines, especially that one in the locked lead line room. How did you find out? But before the puzzled girl can reply, a familiar voice booms out. What's this about a locked room, Stretcho? Ben, you're back. Sure, it's nice of you to notice. Where have you been, Ben? We haven't heard from you for days. I had me some thinking to do. I hope you got whatever was bothering you out of your system. We've no time for prima donnas here. Relax, Hambone. I'm okay now. Hey, where's the torch? He's attending Metro College, but I'll tell you about it later. We've got work to do now. You're just in time to move that Meson particle smasher for me. What? Me? Move that? And go ahead and describe this particle smasher, Shane.
Oh yeah, it is massive. It is what, like four times the size of Ben, and it looks kind of like a giant battery, especially with the little plugs on the bottom. It has all kinds of diodes and stuff going around it. It's a massive, Reed Richards work of art.
And it is 100% Jack Kirby design,
Oh yeah.
Reed says. Quit clowning, Ben. I'm working against time. Every minute counts. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. I guess I can lift it if you want me to. Of course you can. You've done it dozens of times before. Sure, sure, I just forgot. And Ben goes ahead and lifts this apparatus. Hey, how about that? With one hand yet. Over here, Ben. Come on, step on it. What's gotten into you, big fella? And suddenly, who burst into the laboratory?
Ben Grimm himself. True Ben Grimm.
Can't you guess what's gotten into him, big brain? That sounds like Ben. Watch yourself, Stretch. That guy's a fake. He ain't the thing. I am. Reed, it isn't possible, but look. Easy. There must be an answer. All right, smart guy. Talk. How'd you do it? How'd you turn yourself into the thing? I said talk. Wait till I stop trembling, Sonny. Look, I don't know who this nut is, but if he don't stop breathing in my face, he knows who I am, all right. He duplicated me somehow. He turned into the thing, and I turned back to Ben Grimm. We gotta make him admit it. And Reed gets between Ben and the imposter and says, now hold on, mister. The thing isn't exactly an easy man to imitate. He's not imitating me. He is me. I mean, and Ricardo, as the thing says, step aside, egghead. I'll settle this before you can say Aunt Petunia. And he reaches down for a titanium steel bar that is resting on the floor. No, Ben, have you gone mad? You can't attack him with that titanium steel bar. You gotta be kidding. If I wanted to clobber him, I wouldn't need any bar. I just want to put on a little show for you. And what does Ben do here?
He smashes it with the nice crunch.
Now, if I ain't really the thing, then who's doing this? Any questions? And he tosses aside the smashed piece of steel. Look, friend, I'll admit you bear an uncanny resemblance to Ben Grimm, but I don't know how you can expect to get away with such a foolish claim. You, you mean you don't believe me? Catch on real quick, bub. All right, I ain't gonna bang my head against a stone wall. I'm Ben Grimm, and nothing can change that. I know it, and he knows it. But if you want to play footsie with him, go ahead. What do I care? It's your funeral. Maybe it'll teach you a lesson for once. Reed Richards. Boy genius. Oh, what a laugh. And Ben storms out of the laboratory. It's incredible. Not only is he a dead ringer for you, Ben, he sounds just like you. Big deal. He's probably been taking elocution lessons. Too bad I had to blow the guy's gimmick. Wonder what he was after. You know, for a minute there, I thought you was starting to believe that phony. If his story weren't so impossible, he did seem to be Ben Grimm. Now, don't get huffy, Benjamin. You know I'd trust you with my life. In fact, that's just what I'm about to do. Huh? Now what in blazes are you talking about? I've got to test a machine I've just completed, Ben. And if anything goes wrong, only you can save me. Reed, what do you mean? What is it? You haven't told me. There isn't time, Sue. Have faith in me, as I have in Ben. But if it's that dangerous, why can't I help you? I know you've the heart, darling, but you haven't the strength. Only Ben can do it. Do what, Reed? Tell me. Yes, I owe you that much. Reed begins strapping a number of belts containing equipment to him and dons a glass helmet. There are those who have mastered the space-time principle, the ability to speed faster than light to any part of the universe. Galactus, the Watcher, the Silver Surfer, they can all do it. But how does that affect us? There can be no defense against a faster than light attack. And so, for the safety of Earth, the sake of the human race, man too must break the same barrier. And Reed walks over to a console that is labeled Danger, Experiment, Spacetime, and presses a button that opens a latch. And then they entered the locked room where they find and describe the apparatus that we are confronted by here, Shane.
Dude, I knew you were gonna ask me to describe this when I was reading this, and I was like, I hope to God he doesn't do it, but I knew you were going to. So I've been trying to figure out how to do this for a while, like all day. I still don't know exactly how to do it, but this is a beautiful Jack Kirby designed time box. This is what how Jack Kirby just thought that warp time would work. It is basically his version of a warp engine from Star Trek.
And me not being a Trekkie doesn't really understand the reference, but that's okay.
So, so when you were like when you said about like that doesn't make sense with the space-time thing. So the way the warp engines work, what they do is they warp space, so it grabs the different layers of space and brings them closer together so that you travel less space. And then when you come out of warp, you take the reality around you and go back. So we could more into that when you go further into this when he talks about like the four-dimensional stuff. But like, so basically, the easiest way to do it is like if you think of the space as an accordion or a squeeze box, as some people call it, like what you're doing is when space is like expanded, and then you squeeze, do what you need to do, and then unsqueeze.
Nice. Well, Shane, you have done a remarkable job of explaining what this machine does and completely managed to avoid saying what this machine looks like.
This machine looks like it has boxes and tubes and uh circles, and it's just a bunch of shapes everywhere, and I don't know what they do, but it's all goes down into doing what I just explained, warping space.
And I mean, you missed some stuff.
Uh, uh, some triangles. There's the little console over here that seems to run it. There looks like there's a jet engine on the side of it. I don't know what that's for. Mm. Beautifully shaded and colored. I don't know how else to explain it.
I'm going to be completely serious with you. This is a machine that takes up pretty much the entire splash page here on page 9. I'm not a big fan of this. Now, I get that Kirby was definitely trying to design probably the most sci-fi machine he possibly could, but I'm looking at some of this and there's just problems with the perspective on it. There's parts of the perspective where I feel like either he or Joe Sinnott, when he was inking it, just kind of lost the plot with it. Pieces that should be facing one way that are facing another, and it's a sight to behold at the very least. But there are parts that bother me about it.
I don't think it was supposed to get ripped apart by two people 60 years later looking at it from that way. This was when comics were meant for kids, and it was supposed to be just a beautifully rendered image where you just look at it and like, wow, that's cool. What does that do?
So it just kind of gives me a headache. Read continues. This huge radical cube, you know what? No, it's still giving me a headache. This is not a cube. This is
I
not.
was trying not to laugh.
It's not a cube. It's not a cube, Reed.
Well, it kind you get the idea that it could be a cube with parts coming out of it. It has you have the two faces of the cube.
Don't defend it. Like what? He could have called it. You know what? It's not Jack's thing calling it a cube. This is Stan calling it a cube. I would have been okay if he would have called it a radical doorway because there's very obviously an arch to it, like a door frame. Anyway, getting back on track. Reed continues. This huge radical cube is designed to create a dimensional entrance into subspace, which is the area I must explore. I'm going to enter the cube now, Ben. You know what else he could have entered, Shane?
A doorway.
A doorway, yeah. I'm going to enter the cube now, Ben, while you hold that reel of super tensile strength cable. What am I supposed to do with the blame thing? Ben says, holding onto the reel, which is attached to Reed's belt. If I run into any danger, I'll tug on it, and you're to pull me back here immediately, no matter what. Reed, wait, take me with you. Please, let me go too. I can't, my darling, but knowing that you're here, waiting, I'll come back, though Satan himself should bar the way. At that very moment, unaware of the crisis rapidly developing at FF headquarters, Johnny Storm and his college roommate, Wyatt Wingfoot, are at the Cozy Campus Coffee Shop. And describe the scene here at the Cozy Campus Coffee Shop, which I'm gonna tell you what, Shane,
I was waiting for
I
you to
I I don't like the way those three words are spelled.
I was wondering how you felt about that also.
You can't put three K words like that together. I'm sorry.
I mean, you can,
It's
but
1966 especially. You shouldn't do that.
you shouldn't do it, but you can. And just in case you're wondering, where that reference is the fact that it's cozy campus coffee, and they all start with the K.
Awful lot of honkies in there too.
Yes, but we're gonna leave it at that. You shouldn't do it. Anyway, going back to where what are we seeing here? Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah, describe the scene for us here at the KKK coffee shop. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh gosh. So you have the school's quarterback with all of his lackeys drooling all over him, while Johnny's sitting directly behind him with his roommate, Mr. Wyatt Wingfoot himself. But yeah, go ahead.
Wyatt says to Johnny, they sure are noisy in that booth behind us, Johnny. Yeah, it's Whitey Mullins, the big time football star, and his personal cheering section. And the girl seated directly behind Johnny and next to Whitey says, dear God, his name's Whitey! God, no!
It doesn't get better. I'll give you a hint on what my grim grumbling is.
You'd think it'd be mine, but it isn't. Um,
Yours is clearly the door.
no, it's not even that. We haven't even gotten there yet. Um, okay, anyway, so the girl next to Whitey says, I hear the Human Torch enrolled at Metro, Whitey. Looks like you'll be having some competition now. Not a chance, sugar. Take away his flame and he's nothing. Got news for you, Whitey. He's in the next booth. And this kid who said that turns to the torch and says, you're Johnny Storm, right? Say hello to Whitey Mullins. Okay. Hello. So that's the famous Human Torch? Big deal. No, he's not, Whitey. Better turn around, Johnny. Whitey wants to talk to you. So let him. How's about showing us what you can do, kid? Let's see you flame on. All right, if it'll get rid of you so I can finish my Java in peace. And what does Johnny do here, Shane?
Gives him a nice thumb up with a flamed on.
Here, satisfied? Sure, and I'll even help douse it for you. Like this. And what does Whitey do to Johnny?
Oh, he pours some water on his head.
Good old Whitey, he's a panic. Hey! Great sense of humor you got, Mullins. How'd you like a fat lip to go with it? You wouldn't talk so big if you weren't the Human Torch squirt. I don't need my flame to handle a crumb like you. I say you do. And Wyatt stands up from the booth, and I say he doesn't. Who the heck are you? Stay out of this, Wyatt. This is my fight. My name is Wyatt Wingfoot, and I don't like to see my friends pushed around, not even by a granite brain gridiron star. And one of the girls in the gathering crowd says, oh, look at those shoulders. While another onlooker says, Wyatt Wingfoot, why does that name sound so familiar? And Whitey gets into Wyatt's face. So the torch has to go around with a bodyguard, huh? Knock it off, Mullins. This isn't his fight. Why don't you just go back to your booth? No one tells me what to do. Suddenly, the angry figure of an older man breaks through the ever-growing circle of Metro's students. Mullins, what's going on here? I've warned you about that temper of yours. Relax, coach. We're just having a little peaceful discussion, that's all. Back away, smart guy. You're not fooling anyone. Look, coach, you can chew me out on the field or in the locker room, but this isn't any of your business. So long as you're on my team, anything you do is my business, and don't ever forget it, Mullins. Don't blame him, Coach Thorpe. I guess it was just as much my fault. Nuts. I'm cutting out. I don't need a twerp like the torch putting in a good word for me. And Johnny thinks to himself, I sure feel sorry for Coach Thorpe. How do you keep your star quarterback in line when you both know the team's nothing without him? And Johnny turns to the coach and says, Sorry if I caused you any trouble, coach. Forget it, son. And the coach turns to Wyatt. Say, what's your name, big fella? I haven't seen you here before. I am Wyatt Wingfoot, sir. Wingfoot? I should have guessed. The size of you, your features. You gotta be related to Big Will Wingfoot, the greatest Olympic decathlon star this country ever had. Yes, he was my father. I knew it. How soon can you come out for practice? I'm sorry, I'm not interested in athletics, Coach Thorpe. But your father, he was. There's nothing more to be said, sir. And Johnny and Wyatt turn to leave the coffee shop as the coach rejoins his wife at their table. And she says, What's wrong, dear? You look as though you've seen a ghost. I almost have. That boy is Will Wingfoot's son. If he inherited even a fraction of his father's prowess. But what am I saying? What difference does it make? He doesn't want to try out for the team. He won't even discuss it. Don't worry, Jim. There'll be other players. Now, Shane, I'm gonna take an aside here. This coach's name is Jim Thorpe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know who Jim Thorpe is, and you know who Jim Thorpe is,
Mm-hmm.
because we live in Pennsylvania. Others may not know who Jim Thorpe is and may not be into sports like you are, and I can be at some points. But Jim Thorpe was, especially around this time, a famous football player. So you would think, oh, maybe they're just doing a call out to football player Jim Thorpe. Here's the problem. The character of the coach was introduced in the previous issue, Volume 1, Number 50, when Johnny first went to college. And his name was Sam Thorne. So they're not doing like a call out to Jim Thorpe. They just got his whole name wrong.
It's wild.
Anyway, just some fun trivia.
Does it go back, or
Just,
does he never show up again?
do you want to hear something really funny, Shane?
Sure.
So I've read through the majority of Stan and Jack's run. Next issue, Johnny and Wyatt get on a plane with the rest of the Fantastic Four to Wakanda, and I don't think Johnny ever goes back to college.
So we never find out the story of Wyatt.
Pretty sure this is just a drop plot thread.
Hmm. Someone should write that story now.
Yeah. You know,
Six.
we could use a sequel to Carl Kessel and Scotty Young's Human Torch run, right? So like, if
Oh no, we should just have this be a Wyatt Wingfoot run.
yo, I'm not even lying. I would read the hell out of a Wyatt Wingfoot miniseries. And I would love to see what he's been up to. This guy dated She-Hulk. Like he's an interesting character.
We could write a whole mini series about what happened while he was in college while Johnny was off gallivanting.
Well, that's the thing though. Once he was introduced, Wyatt, especially through the Stan and Jack run, was a consistent supporting character of the Fantastic Four. You want to know what he was doing in college while Johnny was off gallivanting around with the Fantastic Four? Just read the book, because half the time Wyatt was with them anyway. Anyway, getting back to the book. Coach Thorne's wife says, Don't worry, Jim. There'll be other players. And Coach says, No, not like him. Don't you see, Belle? His father and I, we were teammates. We were great together. And now, fate has sent Wyatt to me. It's my big chance to coach the greatest team of all before I retire. I've got to make him play. But now it's time to return to the Baxter Building, where Reed Richards is about to undertake one of the most dangerous feats of his career. Reed, my darling, don't do it. I I have a premonition of disaster, or at least let me come with you. It's impossible, Sue. But I can't turn back now. Subspace must be explored and conquered for the good of mankind. And Ricardo, disguised as the Thing, thinks, I always thought he was just a glamour pants, out for all the dough and the glory he could get. But he's tackling a job that won't net him a plugged nickel, and he's doing it without any fanfare or any publicity. And Reed enters the radical cube, as they like to call it. Remember, Ben, don't let go of that line. My life is in your hands. And he thinks to himself, there can be no turning back now. Once I push this lever, the phase drive mechanism will be automatically activated. It must be done, no matter what. Now! And Reed flips the lever, and it makes a sound, Shane.
Black.
And what happens in this next panel?
So in the next panel, the Kirby Crackle just looks like it's about to eat Reed. He is fighting for, well, it looks like he's fighting against, just utter destruction.
And as Reed swims through this red mass of Kirby Crackle, he says, I've done it. The universe seems to be tearing itself open, falling apart. I've shredded the very fabric of infinity, where all positive matter is transposed into negative form. And now I'm plunging through the resulting void which I've created in the space-time dimensional barrier. And Reed continues walking through the machine as it shunts him between dimensions. It's almost more than human eyes can bear. I'm actually witnessing a four-dimensional universe, but with the effect of seeing it with three-dimensional vision is indescribable. The line which is tied to me is my only contact with reality. If that should break, I'd be lost forever. And Reed seems to reach the end of his walkway and falls through space, colors swirling around him as he says, everything is moving faster now. The universe has become a vast kaleidoscope of light and sound. There's only one explanation. I'm finally approaching my goal. I'm at the very edge of subspace. Now, Shane, Reed has consistently been referring to this area, this issue, as subspace. But he also just said that he has shredded the very fabric of infinity where all positive matter is transposed into negative form. What are we actually looking at here?
And on when we switch to page 14,
No, I mean, as opposed to it being subspace.
we're looking at ribbons. Uh I'm assuming that each one is a reality upon itself.
Allow me to rephrase. So, having said that dialogue, they don't refer to this as subspace for very long in the comics. What is the name of this today, Shane?
Oh, oh, why? Oh, why can't I think of it? I hate when you put me on the spot like that.
He has shredded the very fabric of infinity where all positive matter is transformed into negative form.
Oh yeah, the negative zone.
Yes, Shane, the negative zone. We are looking at the debut issue of the negative zone. I thought
Oh,
maybe you'd have more of a eureka moment than that, but instead you just, the negative zone.
it's
But that's
so
fine because it makes it sound like you knew the answer when I edit it together. So, we're gonna do that.
I'm so mad that
Why?
I couldn't think of it.
And so we turn the page and we are greeted with another splash page. Shane, describe what we are looking at here.
Sure. Circles, planetary structures, um, a landscape at the bottom with some giant rock structures and various kaleidoscope of colorways. And at the top, you have mountains going up and down. It's literally anything or everything you want it to be at the same time.
And floating in the midst of all this is Reed Richards. Shane, I'm not gonna lie. This is one of the things that Jack Kirby would do periodically that I absolutely love. This is a collage page where he's obviously taken photographic images and overlaid them on one another and then put his own artwork over top of it. And I just think it is some of the coolest effect work that has ever been done in comics, especially for a comic book that was released in 1966.
Yeah, this is a really stunning page.
And as Reed gazes in awe of what he's seeing, he says, I've done it. I'm drifting into a world of limitless dimensions. It's the crossroads of infinity, the junction to everywhere. And he begins to fall into an asteroid shower. But I still can't control my movements. I'm being buffeted helplessly through the void, yet every form of matter seems to be plunging madly towards one central source. And then, suddenly, the lone dedicated human who is Reed Richards sees the senses shattering fate that seems to await him. Ahead of me, it's the one thing I feared, the one thing there can be no defense against. The elements of subspace are being irresistibly drawn back towards Earth. But here, in subspace, all matter is negative, while Earth is positive. Therefore, whatever strikes the atmosphere of Earth must instantly explode. My only chance for escape is the line. And Reed begins pulling on it. Ben has to feel my tugging. He's got to pull me back while he still can. Nothing's happening. If he fails me now, I'm doomed. Ben, where are you? Ben, Ben. And at the other end of the fateful line, we find what, Shane?
We find Ben holding onto that rope. Well, we see Ricardo as Ben holding onto that rope and really contemplating whether he should pull it because it you can see that it's taut, and you see Sue pleading with Ricardo as Ben.
He's tugging. All I gotta do is ignore him, and I'll have beaten the one man I've always envied, the one man no one else could ever defeat. But all of a sudden, I don't envy him anymore. I I never knew how brave he was, how unselfish. Ben, the line is growing taut. It's Reed. It's his signal. All these years, when I thought I never got the breaks, now I know the truth. It was my fault, nobody else's. I wouldn't work hard enough. I wouldn't make the sacrifices that a Reed Richards would. Pull him, Ben! Quickly! Ben! I never saw things so clear before. It's almost like I've really become the thing, not just an imitation. Ben, for the love of heaven! I never did a worthwhile thing in my whole life, but now I've finally got the chance. I can really be Ben Grimm. I've got to do it. I'll save Richards. Don't worry, lady. I'll get him now. But before the strange changeling can make a move, what happens, Shane?
The line snaps in half, and Ben falls on his tuchus.
Ricardo is Ben, but I'll give you that. It's confusing. I I waited too long. It snapped. He's done for. And it's because of me. Oh no, no. I've got to go to him. He can't be left alone in there. He needs me. He needs me. Stay back, do you hear? Stay back. There's nothing you can do. Whatever's happening to him in there, only a mass of muscle can help. And Ricardo goes charging into the doorway. You wait out there, baby. I'll whistle if I need you. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can still grab that busted hunk of line before it's too late. And Ricardo leaps into the Kirby crackle and grabs the end of the line. I got it! But in making his last ditch desperate leap after the thin strand of cable, the man with the thing's body is himself instantly drawn into the incredible barrier between the dimensions. Now I've done it. Whatever happened to Richards will happen to me too. I can't turn back. Lucky the body of the thing is strong enough to stand extreme conditions without a protective helmet, or I'd be done for already. And what do we see in the next panel, Shane?
We see Ricardo has been running basically or almost colliding with Richards on his little asteroid that he's riding to Earth.
And he thinks to himself, there he is, still alive. But for how long? And Reed shouts, Ben, you fool! You shouldn't have come after me. Now we're both doomed. You were just supposed to pull the line in when I tugged. Ben, old friend, I I didn't want this to happen to you. In a few seconds, we'll reach the atmosphere below us, and it'll mean instant death. If only you hadn't come. And Ricardo thinks to himself, so this is how it's going to end. And even now, he's worried more about me than himself. And Reed outstretches his hand and rests it on Ricardo's shoulder while shaking his other hand. Brace yourself, Ben. We did the best we could. One can do no more. You you were the greatest partner a man ever had. And Ricardo thinks, that's the guy I spent years hating, being jealous of. I I ain't even worth his little pinky. Then, suddenly, what does Ricardo do, Shane?
He picks Reed up by the chest and launches him like a football back towards the area that he fell from.
Maybe we don't have to both die, mister. Ben, what are you doing? And as he hurls Reed off into space, Ricardo thinks, the one worthwhile thing I ever did in my whole wasted life. Even the strength which I now possess, I stole from another. But maybe I can use that strength to even the score somehow. I tossed him back in exactly the same direction I came from. He's out of sight now, so I'll never know. So long, Richards. I hope you make it. As for me, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. Not many men get a second chance to make up for the rotten things they've done in their lifetime. I guess I'm luckier than most. I got that chance, for I finally learned what it means to have a friend. And what happens to Ricardo, Shane?
Oh, Ricardo rides that asteroid right into the Earth atmosphere, and
And at that moment, in another section of our vast, unfathomable universe, unaware of the dire danger confronting Reed Richards, the real Ben Grimm prepares to pay a call. And what do we see, Shane?
oh, we see Ben in a suit. Real Ben, but Ben in human form, in a suit, going to talk to Alicia and see if she still can tell that he's actual Ben.
Yeah, it's a nice blue suit, and he makes his way down the hallway thinking, my only hope is that Alicia will be able to tell who I am. Being blind, she's more sensitive to a person's true sight than anyone with sight could be. Even though she can't see, I'm still kind of nervous to be facing her like a normal man. It's what I always wanted, always dreamed of. If only it happened some other way. I can't let that phony take my place in the FF. There'll be no telling what'll happen if he does. But then, as Ben Grimm knocks on the door of Felicia Masters, he sees what, Shane?
His hand transform back to that of the thing.
My my hand! Startled, shocked, stunned into speechlessness, he has no way of knowing that, a universe away, the man who had taken his identity has now given it up again, forever. Finally, when the initial numbed reaction has passed, I I've become the thing again. Now I can go back and clobber that creep who's posing as me. Besides, by turning into Ben Grimm again, I might have had a chance with Alicia, even against the Silver Surfer. But now, it's too late. I'm a walking, living monster again. Maybe this is the real me. Maybe Ben Grimm is nothing more than a dream. And a scant few seconds later, what happens, Shane?
Alicia opens a door and there's no one there.
I I thought I heard someone at the door, but no one is here now. I had the strangest feeling in my heart, as though it was someone whom I love. But now let's rush back to the Baxter Building before the thing gets there, because we don't want to miss this next event. And what happens at the Baxter Building?
Reed comes with a thoosh back through the doorway.
Reed, Reed, my darling, it's you. You're alive. He did it. I'm back. Ben saved you. I knew he would. I knew it. He's never failed us yet. But Reed, where is he? He didn't return with you. What happened to him? Sue, I don't know how to say it. It happened so quickly. One minute we were together, and then it was over. I owe him my life. And Reed puts his head in his hands. It's my fault, Sue. The line I told him to hold, it must have pulled him into subspace. No, darling, no. He didn't do as you said. He waited too long until the line snapped. I saw him. And Sue helps Reed to his feet, where he says, don't try to spare my feelings, dear. You know how I felt about Ben. He was more than just a friend. I'd have given my life for him 1,000 times. If only we knew why he didn't pull the line in time. What does it matter now, with him gone? But who enters the doorway of the lab?
Ben as the thing.
And Ben thinks to himself, that phony must have bit the dust, and they still think he was me. The jawbreaking egg-headed square. He does have feelings after all. Who'd have guessed? And then Ben says, you can cool the crying towel bit now. I'm alive and kicking, like always. It was that other guy I warned you about who cashed in. Ben. Or, or is it Ben? How can we know? It's the real Ben. I can sense it, Reed. That's the answer I was looking for. That's why the other Ben didn't pull the line in time. He was an imposter. And Reed and Sue rush over and hug Ben. It's too good to be true, but I'll trust Sue's feminine intuition anytime. Oh, Ben, Ben, dearest, we thought we'd lost you. Easy, Susie gal. Your husband might get jealous and try to polish me off with some new 50-buck words. Okay, now, what about the rotten creep who tried to take my place here? What's the lowdown on him? Try not to judge him too harshly, Ben. Somehow, at the last minute, some of your own heroism reached out through the endless void and touched him. Huh? I'd still like to have gotten my own paws on him, just once. It's too late for that now, old friend. We'll never know what monstrous things he had done in the past or what monstrous plans he'd made. But one thing is certain. He paid the full price, and he paid it like a man. Next issue, destined to be the most talked about new character of the year, the Black Panther. Interesting thing, Shane, is take note that end of issue caption promoting Black Panther's debut definitely wasn't done by Artie Simek. I don't know who did it, but that definitely does not look like the lettering in the rest of the issue.
Yes, it does not match the rest of the lettering in the book.
But anyway, Shane, what did you think of this one?
I'm glad I took a pause when I read it this morning because I wasn't in a real good headspace when I first started reading this, and I was gonna blast this book until I finished it later on. When I went back and read the rest of it, I actually ended up, I guess I would say enjoying it. It's not really like the most fun story in the world. How about yourself?
I'm going to respectfully disagree as far as it not being. I mean, okay, it's not the most fun story. I think it's a fun story. It's a morality play at its very base, obviously, right? You have Ricardo, who is a very selfish human being who blames his problems on others and is going out of his way to try and harm someone that he feels has everything that he doesn't. But then once he sees the good in that person, changes his mind and then atones for his own sins and shortcomings, right?
Right.
What this book really does is it showcases who Ben Grimm is by spotlighting what is more or less his polar opposite in Ricardo. I think this book really does well by showcasing who Reed is, his dedication to his work, his love for Sue by not wanting to put her in danger, his trust in Ben, his overall feelings for Ben when he thinks that he has lost him. I mean, and you even get quintessential Johnny moments when he's off at college. You see his hot-headed temper, his relationship with Wyatt. For a single issue story, a one and done, I feel like this hits all the proper benchmarks for a Fantastic Four story. You got the family dynamic that is lived up to. You have the super science adventure point of it. So for me, I mean, I would say this is kind of the quintessential Fantastic Four story, at least for what we've read so far. And I mean, I think others would argue that it is the quintessential Fantastic Four story of all time. It sets the tone for what you think the Fantastic Four should be.
Yeah, I mean, I
Right.
can see that. I can see that, but I don't know. Me, like I said, I wasn't in a good headspace, and it just was like not adding to that headspace. By the end, it's kind of positive, but there's so much negative going on in the beginning of this book.
Well, yeah, you have sad Ben thinking that Alicia has left him for the surfer. And
Yeah.
then, of course, like I said, you have Ricardo who takes advantage of that situation and steals Ben's life with the goal of revenge. I mean, yeah, I can see where it's a bleak beginning to what ends up being a positive tale. At the end of the day, though, everything works out in the end, right? Ricardo
Yeah.
gets his redemption. No one dies. Well, Ricardo dies. He goes out with a heroic sacrifice. Or does he? Because, we can't leave well enough alone over 60 years. But I forget, did you read Fantastic Four Full Circle?
It's sitting on this thing. I haven't finished it.
Okay. It's directly linked to this story.
Yeah, it's over there on the shelf to
Okay.
be read.
Let's go ahead and hit our Fantastic Four of the week. I go first this time around. So, my Fantastic Frame, I will have to go with the splash on page 14 as my favorite panel of this issue.
Spoiler alert, I also went with page 14.
Like I said, this is the Kirby collage. And also, I mean, you don't get much more Fantastic Four than this. You have Reed in a foreign dimension. He's dwarfed by his surroundings. It's pure science fiction goodness. And it's just so iconic. I honestly would have been questioning had you not picked this one, though, to be fair, Shane, there is enough thing goodness in this issue on the first page alone that I kind of thought you might go for that.
There was one other one I had. It was actually on the second page, but yeah, there was one other one that was like a close runner-up. That one panel alone looks like where Mike Magnolia took his whole idea of how he did comics. So,
Which one?
panel 5.
On page two?
Yeah.
I could see that. But like you said, you did not pick that. So why did you decide to go with page 14?
I really like the juxtaposition of actual hand-drawn Reed on top of the looks like newspaper cutouts that he was drawn on top of.
The photographic elements.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, I know we got a tease of it earlier, but what was your grim grumbling for this week?
Oh, it was page 10, starting with the KKK or Cozy Campus Coffee. That just set it off. Then, his name being Whitey Mullins and him just it had to be in the story. I get it. There had to be like that antagonist to Johnny, but there was choices made.
Consciously or unconsciously? Yes.
I don't think that was unconsciously. All I gotta say about that. Um, what was yours, bud?
So I am going to go for page 11, panel 5, and page 12, panel 4, because literally Sam Thorne was introduced last issue, and Stan has already forgotten his name by this issue. Probably made worse by the fact that, I know who Jim Thorpe is. We live in a state where there has been a town named after Jim Thorpe. And I know Stan was writing, like 13 books a month by this point, somewhere around there. But still, like, get it together, man.
I mean, you're not wrong. Stan had a problem. That's what happens when you're your own editor, I guess.
Well, and that's why you have the Hulk's name instead of just being Bruce Banner, being Robert Bruce Banner, because he kept forgetting that he named the character Bruce Banner and he kept calling him Bob Banner in certain issues. So they needed to come up with a fix for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So our next one is the cosmic cliffhanger. What's yours, buddy?
So I went with page 15, panel 5. That is where Reed is tugging on the line and he's getting no response from Ben. I've often said on this show that mortal peril makes for the best cliffhangers. This is the definition of that. Ricardo as Ben save Reed. Will Sue dive in to save Reed? Will Reed save himself? Obviously, we know he's going to make it out of there somehow. It's just a matter of how. But yeah, a lot of drama just ratcheted up to 11 here in this panel, especially with Reed's expression, pure terror.
Oh, it was pure terror.
How about you, Shane?
Same panel.
Oh,
Again, like you said, mortal peril makes the best cliffhangers. And I flipped through this a couple times. I almost went with the one where you see Ben chasing off at the end of 16 there, where he's chasing the line, and maybe he catches the line and is able to pull him through. And obviously, when you flip it, he ended up getting drugged through the negative zone himself. But I ended up going with this one just be Reed's face is what really did it for me. I was like, that is pure terror.
it's a great sell.
Yeah. So that is the way I went with that.
Well, then, when it all comes down to it, Shane, who was your most fantastic player for the issue?
What did we say his name was? Ricardo Jones?
Yes,
Because in my notes, this was before I knew his name was Ricardo Jones. I had it as fake thing.
I also picked Ricardo Jones. I don't know how much more I can elaborate on this, but it's a morality play, and it's Ricardo's crisis of conscience that allows him to turn over a new leaf and save the very man that he sought to destroy. Normally I don't like giving this to the person who causes the problem. However, kind of loopholed my way around it. Reed is responsible for his own situation in this. And he knew he was walking into danger. He put the fail safes in place. But and to be fair, also Ricardo does allow the line to snap by waiting too long, hemming and hawing over whether or not he's going to do this whole vengeance routine. But he also then dives in there and manages to save Reed and therefore also restores Ben's powers. Yeah, I mean, he took advantage of a situation for half a moment and then he resolved it. So that's my loophole for giving it to Ricardo this week.
Yeah, this is that the old what was his name? Skip Collins.
Yeah, Skip Collins, yes. That being said, though, I don't know how Skip Collins it really is. Which, for those of you who want to know more about Skip Collins, go ahead and listen to episode 37, where we cover the man with the power in Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 234.
The power of the babe.
I feel like Ricardo is a lot more with it than Skip ever was.
That's fair. Ricardo Jones is the guy. Thank God he can throw a football or a Reed Richards like football.
So, true believers, if you would like to read this story for yourself, it has been reprinted a number of times. This might be the longest list that I've ever put together. Shane, you know what's really weird about this issue is that
Well,
I think it has had more foreign reprints than anything else we've covered so far. Like, case in point, the first reprint was in the Netherlands in 1967. That was Hip Comics number 1912. Also in 1967, Germany with Hit Comics number 12. And also in 1967, Marvel Series number 2 in Sweden. There was a collection that was put out in 1969 here in the States, which was Fantastic Four Comic Album 1969, which also includes this story. But then we get back to the foreign editions. We have the Spanish market in 1971 with Los Cuatro Fantásticos number 25. And then it was reprinted again in the States in October of 1972 in Marvel's Greatest Comics number 38. Marvel UK put this story out in Mighty World of Marvel numbers 109 and 110 in November of 1974. It was republished as a Treasury edition, specifically Marvel Treasury Edition number 11 in 1976. Marvel UK again republished this story in the Fantastic Four Pocket Book number 5 in August of 1980. And then it was reprinted again in 1991 in the Very Best of Marvel Comics. Then we start getting into the more regular modern trade market, starting with Marvel Masterworks Fantastic Four Volume 6, which was released in October of 2000. It was also in the newsprint collection Essential Fantastic Four Volume 3 in August of 2001. It was part of the Best of the Fantastic Four trade paperback in May of 2005. I personally read it today out of Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 2, which was first published in June of 2007. Again, with a United Kingdom reprint via Panini Comics in October of 2009 in Fantastic Four Adventures Volume 1, number 56. And I know you like those Epic collections, Shane. It was also included in Fantastic Four Epic Collection Volume 3, The Coming of Galactus, which was released in January of 2018. It was also reprinted in the trade paperback for Fantastic Four Grand Design in January of 2020. And it was also included in the Fantastic Four Full Circle Expanded Edition hardcover in October of 2024. You can also find it on Marvel Unlimited or at your local comic book store, probably on a key wall. Well, Shane, any guesses as to what we are covering next week?
Back to the Human Torch.
You are correct. We are at number 5 of Human Torch Volume 3 by Carl Kessel and Scotty Young. Only 2 more issues left in that Burn storyline that we are covering.
Yeah, I'm excited to get there. I'm really kind of interested to see where we're at.
And true believers, if you are still interested in hearing where we're at, you can follow us each and every week by subscribing via your preferred listening platform. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon. Yeah, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find us. Just a reminder that your feedback is important to us. We would highly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also comment and review on Spotify. We are on Facebook at the Fantastic Four Fancast, where we encourage you to engage in FF related discussions and share Fantastic Four related content. We only ask that you adhere to the group rules, most important of which is to be respectful of your fellow group members. Shane, within an hour before we were recording tonight, we hit 500 members in the Facebook group.
Oh, yeah, you were saying that we were very close. That's pretty cool.
Oh, and we're getting a bit more active on there as well with our listeners. They are sharing their own content, and I think it's getting to be time where we start doing some group member polls to maybe do some top 10 lists around here.
That was the whole point of doing that Facebook group, so I'm kind of excited to see if we where we go with the top 10 list.
We are also on Instagram at Fan4Fancast. That is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. And finally, you can contact us with feedback or suggestions by email at fan4fancast@gmail.com. Again, that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST@gmail.com. Shane, what final thoughts would you like to leave the true believers with this week?
Go find this issue. It's out there. Read it. If you just type in negative zone in Google, you'll get a bunch of images of page 14 if you really just want to know what that looks like, because it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Thanks again for joining us this week, true believers. For Shane Murray, I'm Nate Charles, and until next time, stay fantastic.